Okay. All right. So picture this. You wake up to two men in your room. It's 2 to 3 in the morning, and you don't know why they're there or what their intentions are with you. They forcefully take you out of your bed and down to their car that's parked in your driveway. And the craziest part of it all is that your parents gave them consent to do this. This was the rude awakening and the transportation that Ellen's students faced when they were signed up for the summer camp. Ellen was a boarding school in the deep woods of Maine and was founded during the troubled teen movement in the 70s. The two founders were Joseph Ritchie and Dr. Davidson. So Joseph Ritchie was kind of the public front guy who would do TV appearances, and Dr. Davidson was the guy who was kind of behind the scenes pulling the strings. It was marketed as a summer camp in the woods or a getaway for the troubled teens, but it was soon to be apparent that that was not the case. The Ellen School did not close down in 2010 due to financial struggles, as their official statement said. Rather, they closed down because former students exposed Ellen's methods of treatment for their troubled students. These methods were shown in the students' daily life, the punishments the students faced for breaking the rules set in place for them, and the bully. So a day in the life for an Ellen student consisted of dehumanization and having their basic rights stripped. Upon arrival to the summer camp, the students were put in their camp showers and were stripped of their actual clothes and given kind of a form of a prison uniform that matched all the other students, which this was just one of the many forms of dehumanization that the students would face. And then the next thing that would happen is they'd be assigned a big brother. So a big brother was supposed to be a kind of mentor for the young students to get acclimated to Ellen. But in reality, a lot of the big brothers actually tried to entice the younger students to break the rules or run away from the camp, which would result in them getting punished. This was kind of their weird, kind of twisted way of showing dominance over the students, which is kind of a callback to the Stanford experiments when they had the prison guards and the prisoners. And as soon as the prisoners were put in power, they just wanted to exert dominance over the prisoners. The next part of their daily life is they'd be placed in a social hierarchy, which consisted of strengths and non-strengths. So strengths were students who had been in the school for multiple years. They could basically not necessarily do what they wanted, but they could talk to whoever they wanted, whereas non-strengths were first-year students, so they were only allowed to speak to each other. If they spoke to a strength, then it would result in punishment, and they were only allowed to speak to a strength if they were prompted. Another form of the dehumanization was they were prohibited contact with the outside world. The only form of contact that they had with the outside world was through guilt letters. And guilt letters were sent to their parents, and it was basically a huge lie saying how the treatment was going great for the kids and they were loving their time at Ellen. This led to compliance with a lot of students, which was the main goal of Ritchie and Davidson. They wanted to see how quick the students would start complying with their rules that they put in place. And the compliance led to the students following the outrageous set of rules that Ritchie created. So I think there were over 80 something rules. So I just wrote down a couple that I thought were pretty interesting. So possessing any image, reading as a non-strength, not finishing your learnings or your schoolwork for the day, writing without permission, talking too loudly or too quietly, looking at the opposite gender, looking out windows, listening to music, and last one, which is the craziest one to me, is smiling. And so if they instill rules like this, then they're going to instill punishments. And corporal punishment was a big thing for Ritchie. And he even went on TV in a news interview to publicly state this. So if rules were broken multiple times, then an extreme form of punishment would be put in place. And one of these forms of punishment was a group of students would have to live in a dumpster for 2 weeks that was on campus. And one of the guards would be assigned to this dumpster. And if any of the students got out of the dumpster, the guard would have to live with the students and a new guard would be put in place. This was all part of the humiliation tactics and the degrading and compliance that Ritchie was trying to get out of the students. Some other forms of humiliation was they would have to wear really offbeat clothes, like all pink outfits or really bright green shoes. And attempted escapers were called split risks. And split risks, if they were a multiple offense split risk, they'd be put in a pink bunny suit that they would have to wear their entire time at Ellen until an official deemed that they were not needing the bunny suit anymore. And if you smiled out of place, you would be put in shutdown. In shutdown, you would be forced to do physical labor instead of your schoolwork for 2 weeks. It would consist of mopping, cleaning toilets with a toothbrush, or cleaning the inside of a garbage can with your hands. And the craziest part about all this is this was considered treatment by Ritchie and Davidson for the students. The next part of punishment that some students would face was general meetings. So I don't know if you guys know who Nexpo is. He's a YouTuber that does kind of like these weird conspiracy theory, creepy videos. So according to Nexpo on YouTube, in a video titled Cult in a Boarding School, published September 3rd, 2021, general meetings were forms of harsh treatment where students would circle around the misbehaving student and scream slurs, obscenities, and basically anything that came to their mind to try and degrade, demean, and pretty much traumatize the student. And this was designed to break the students down into further compliance. And so the last and probably the most extreme form of corporal punishment that the students would face was the bully. So one student would be deemed the bully so they would get in a ring. One corner would be the bully, and this bully would have face protection gear and gloves on. And then they would keep filing students in to fight the bully until the bully was basically done, just dropped. And so one of these bullies was Philip Williams. He was, I forgot the number of the fights. I think it was 20 fights in a row, around 20, that he had to endure. And after the 20th fight, he collapsed and was transported out of Ellen and died in the ambulance on the way. And Ellen came out publicly and said that the reason for his death was he had headaches that he lied about a lot of the time. And the official cause of death was a brain aneurysm, so Ellen didn't face any punishment. And this was a regular occurrence for a lot of the students, not necessarily death, but extreme injury. There was also another kind of outdated form of corporal punishment where students would spank other students with a ping pong paddle if they deemed that they were misbehaving, and it was all left to the judgment of the other students. And another kind of weird twisted thing is the girls would also be forced to fight the guys in the ring that were the bully. And Joseph Ritchie went on record saying that he considered his facility an equal rights facility, so that was the reason why. So as you can tell, the daily life for these Ellen students was filled with cruel and disturbing treatment, and the punishments that they faced were traumatizing and could even lead to death. The bully was an extreme form of corporal punishment and absurdly violent. And even if Ellen publicly stated that the reason for their closing was related to financial struggles, the real reason was their treatment was being brought to light by various alumni, actually through the form of Reddit posts, which is the craziest thing about it all, is they got exposed on Reddit. So while we can rejoice that Ellen has finally seen its last days of operation, the physical and psychological damage done to the children who were enrolled in Ellen is irreparable. And that's all. Thank you.